The story does not begin with noise. It begins with a place. A quiet land, surrounded by forest and red earth, where memory would later insist that the world itself once unfolded. This place is Ile-Ife. And to understand the birth of Yoruba civilization, we must return to this ground, not as myth alone, and not as archaeology alone, but as a meeting point where belief, history, and human settlement converged. In the previous episode, we followed the long road of origins, the migrations, the shared memories, the search for identity. Now, that journey narrows. It settles. It arrives. Ile-Ife. For the Yoruba people, Ile-Ife is not just an ancient town. It is a sacred idea, a spiritual center, a remembered beginning. In oral tradition, it is called Ile-Ife, the house of expansion, the place where existence spread outward. Long before written records, generations passed down the conviction that this land was chosen, not by chance, but by destiny. According to Yoruba oral tradition, the story centers on Odùduwà. In the sacred narratives, Odùduwà is remembered as the progenitor of Yoruba kings, the ancestor whose arrival marked order emerging from chaos. Some traditions describe him descending from the heavens, sent by Olodumare, the supreme creator, to bring structure to a formless world. Others speak of migration, of Odùduwà arriving as a leader, settling among earlier inhabitants, and founding a new political and spiritual order. These accounts differ in detail, but they share something important. They all place Ile-Ife at the heart of creation, power, and legitimacy. From this town, Yoruba identity radiates outward. But oral tradition does not stand alone. When historians and archaeologists began to look more closely at Ile-Ife, they found evidence that complicated and enriched the story. Beneath the soil were traces of long-term human occupation dating back more than 1,000 years. Pottery fragments, ironworking remains, and carefully planned settlement patterns suggest that Ile-Ife was not a sudden creation, but a growing, evolving center. By the early second millennium, Ile-Ife had become something remarkable. It was not merely a village. It was a city. Archaeological evidence shows organized neighborhoods, specialized craft production, and extensive trade connections. The people of Ile-Ife worked iron with skill, produced fine beads, and cultivated crops that supported a dense population. This was a society with structure, hierarchy, and vision. And then there are the artworks. Perhaps nothing has reshaped global understanding of Yoruba civilization more than the naturalistic terracotta and bronze heads discovered in Ile-Ife. When these sculptures were first revealed to the modern world in the early 20th century, they caused disbelief. Their realism, technical precision, and aesthetic sophistication challenged long-held assumptions about African art and history. These were not crude figures. They were masterworks. The sculptures suggest a society that valued kingship, ritual, and representation. Many scholars believe they depict rulers, Oba, leaders whose authority was both political and sacred. The careful attention to facial detail hints at individuality, while the regalia signals power. Art, here, was not decoration. It was governance made visible. This brings us to an important transformation. At some point in its early history, Ile-Ife became more than a settlement. It became a sacred capital. Kingship emerged not simply as leadership, but as a divine trust. The Uni of Ife was not just a ruler. He was a custodian of cosmic balance, linking the spiritual world with human society. From Ile-Ife, royal lineages spread. According to tradition, the sons and descendants of Odùduwà established other Yoruba kingdoms, Oyo, Ijebu, Ikiti, Ondo, and others. Each kingdom developed its own political system, yet all traced legitimacy back to Ile-Ife. This shared origin created a cultural unity that survived distance, conflict, and time. But historians are careful here. Rather than a single migration event, many scholars suggest a gradual process. Waves of settlement, alliance, intermarriage, and cultural consolidation. Ile-Ife may have risen as a spiritual and political center because it sat at the crossroads of trade routes and ideas. Its authority grew not through conquest alone, but through symbolism, ritual, and recognition. What makes Ile-Ife extraordinary is this balance. It stands at the intersection of myth and material evidence. The sacred narratives explain meaning. The archaeology explains process. Together, they tell a story of a people organizing themselves around shared values, memory, and place. And yet, for all we know, much remains hidden. Large areas of ancient Ile-Ife are still unexcavated. Many oral traditions remain untranslated or understudied. The full extent of its influence, economic, spiritual, and political, is still being pieced together. What we can say with confidence is this: Ile-Ife was not isolated. It existed within a wider West African world of movement and exchange. Beads from distant regions, metallurgical techniques shared across cultures, and artistic styles that echo beyond Yorubaland all suggest deep connections. Ile-Ife was a center, but not a closed one. As the city flourished, power began to shift and transform. New political forces emerged. Kingdoms rose with military strength, administrative complexity, and territorial ambition. Among them, one would come to dominate Yoruba history in a new way. But that story is not yet complete. Because before empires could rise, before wars and diplomacy reshaped the land, there had to be something deeper, a foundation of belief, authority, and identity that made power meaningful in the first place. That foundation was laid in Ile-Ife. And in the next chapter of this story, we will follow how that sacred authority evolved into organized state power, how kingship moved from ritual center to political empire, and how the Yoruba world entered a new age of transformation. For now, we pause where it all began, on the red earth of Ile-Ife, where history was not only lived, but remembered, and where the future of a civilization quietly took shape.